What's on, everyone? Welcome back to Forder on Football. We have a colossal game today. Arsenal travelling to St James's Park. And let's be brutally honest, this fixture has been an absolute nightmare for Mikel Arteta. He has lost 4 games there, more than at any other away ground except the Etihad. And here's the grim reading. Arsenal have lost the last 3 games at St James's Park without scoring a single goal. Now, to break this curse, we can't really just rely on the cautious approach we've seen lately, and we need a radical tactical plan. So this is a must-win game, especially after Liverpool dropping points yesterday against Crystal Palace. If we can beat Newcastle, we have a huge opportunity to build momentum against upcoming rivals like West Ham, Fulham and Palace themselves, putting some serious pressure on Liverpool and Manchester City. But first, how exactly do we beat Eddie Howe's Magpies? So I'm going to break this up into a couple of different sections. So the first segment is the core tactical challenge. There's fine margins and defensive aggression. So Newcastle are defensively fantastic. They are a tough nut to crack. So get this. They have kept 4 clean sheets in 5 Premier League games this season. They have faced the fewest shots in the entire division and boast the lowest expected goals against. So as in XG. Okay. What does that tell us? It tells us one thing. This game is going to be decided by fine margins. We are not going to be able to pepper their goal, create chance after chance, and Arsenal have got to be far more efficient than we've been lately. And without that, we're not going to win this contest. Newcastle have an absolute brilliant physical midfield in Bruno Guimaraes, Tonali and Joe Linton, who will all be back. They are super competitive and combative, and we have to try and stop them from breaking up play and controlling the midfield. So, let's go into it. An attacking overhaul. We've got to target and we have got to get into zone 14. Without that, it's going to be a painful watch. And to win a fine margins game, you need moments of quality. You need to hit the opposition where they are weak. And where are Newcastle weak? Now, history shows that they've conceded strikes and goal from that zone 14 area and the crucial space around the box. Now, on the Fockles podcast, myself and Wockles were talking about this. We had the tactical board up and we were talking about how we can get into those areas and who are our best strikers from those areas that can kind of cause the damage. So we've got to make some tactical adjustments in the attack. And my first kind of port of call is the inverted forwards. So we've struggled to score at St James's Park, going 1-on-1 with touchline wingers against their fullbacks, all their wing backs, because sometimes they play with 3 at the back. And it's really difficult because they have extra defensive cover out wide. Instead, we're going to have to shift our attack to the inside. So first of all, can we invert Saka and Eze? We know Bukayo Saka's back and we need him on the inside. We need Eze on the inside coming from the left-hand side. This means they're going to operate kind of as more internal 10s rather than our traditional touchline wingers. We're also going to need a central structure. So a narrow focus creates basically like indecision for their defenders, and it achieves safety in numbers centrally. We know Eze can be absolutely vital in this. He has been fantastic in his small cameos, and he has got to start this game. He's highly productive from zone 14. He's able to receive the ball on the back foot, and he's able to quickly turn defenders, which is crucial for easing the pressure against the high press. Also, Gyökeres and his positioning. So if we're playing with these inverted wingers, Gyökeres has got to operate centrally in a pocket 2, so close to the centre-backs. He's got to be prepared for the physical, I don't know what you want to call it, just the onslaught that's going to come from their defence. I know Fabian Schär's not going to be available, but nevertheless, Botman will be playing. I think Newcastle will revert back to a 4 at the back, so 4-3-3. They played in their last game a 3-4-3. And I think it's really important that we get Gyökeres ready for that. He's not been used to that coming from the Portuguese league, and he's got to be ready for Botman. And most likely, is it going to, I guess, Dan Burn with Livramento out on one side. So he's got to be ready for that. The next thing, so that's my front three there. How do we beat the press in midfield? Now, Newcastle are pressing machines. They lead the league in high turnovers, particularly when opponents move the ball into midfield. And Eddie Howe has used high pressing formations, like I previously said, the 3-4-3 effectively against Arsenal before. So if we can get a flexible triangle and we don't get sucked into a slow stop-start contest, which kind of suits Newcastle, we can beat their combative midfield. So there's a couple of options to do this. We could go man for man, and by doing that, we match their aggression, and we'd have essentially like a Rice or maybe a Tonali. We'd have a Zubimendi, most likely against Ramirez, and then maybe an Odegaard against Joe Linton. Now, for me personally, I think if we're going to go man to man, Odegaard is the best option. He is very, very good in the press, and hopefully he'll be back for this game after his shoulder injury. Another way we could do it is with some flexible rotation. So you use a flexible triangle in midfield with Declan Rice and Zubimendi. Rice can then drop in with Zubimendi to create a double pivot, and then that allows a third midfielder to act as the key outball between the lines. Now, it's a bit hard to explain without showing you on the tactical board today, but for me, I think the key person for that could be an Ethan Nwaneri. He's shown in Flitz his ability to kind of receive and act as that kind of key outlet between the lines. He was fantastic against Port Vale, and he's shown like some really, really good moments in the Premier League. He just needs some confidence, and I think at this point, Arteta is going to have to trust him. Now, the only other option we've got in midfield, and that's where I think the battle's going to be won, just bypass the middle. We could just miss the midfield. We can just go over the top with long balls and use fast flowing into play to go through them. Like, we know David Raya is brilliant at these long balls, and we know we're capable of doing it. It's a bit more difficult when we haven't got Kai Havertz up front, but the other option is do that. We saw City do against us. They had the Ballon d'Or winner in Rodri in the middle of their field, and he was looking up, just watching the ball sail over his head. It's not a terrible option. It's not my favourite option, but nevertheless, that is an option, and then win the second balls. Also, the service to Gyökeres. Now, if Newcastle press high, the opportunity is to hit them directly over the top. So that leads into that. Gyökeres is constantly making runs that are often not seen, and it drives me nuts. Ironically, the person who's probably seen it best is Max Dowman. So when you've got a 15-year-old finding that, it's not out of the realms of possibility that the other players can find him too. And Arsenal must give Gyökeres the ball early when he makes a pacey run. Now, waiting too long allows the defence to step up, and then that flags him offside, or he's unable to do what he wants to and get in and behind the defenders. And Arsenal working on specific patterns of play, the drawing wide players in using a fullback, which often opens up the passing lanes for direct balls to Gyökeres. And we need to execute this with precision and early against Newcastle's press. Whether we do that or not, I don't know, but it's high time the Gunners do it. Now, finally, my last one. We've gone through the midfield. We've gone through how to beat the press. We've gone through the attacking and getting into zone 14. The last thing we really need to do is just use our wild cards, because we do have them. So Arteta has got far more options than he did last season. Okay, at points last season we have Raheem Sterling, sorry, and Butler Oyedeji. They are our options. Now, we've seen it in the past few weeks, like Trossard and Martinelli have been fantastic coming off the bench and really, really helped us out. We've had Eze, ironically, coming off the bench and producing a wonder ball to Martinelli against Man City. So there have been options. And I hope Arteta makes the right choices in his lineup and doesn't have to rely on them. But nevertheless, at least we've got them. Personnel wild cards. Now, one is that we use Calafiori as an overlapping fullback. Now, I mentioned previously getting into zone 14, using the inverted wingers and Eze and Saka, but we need that width from somewhere. We can't just pile into that area. Ricardo Calafiori is that wild card fullback. He's that maverick that we have in defence. So he can provide that necessary overlap to create a 3-2-5 attacking shape. Okay. It's a real shame that Hincapié is injured because I think he would have been perfect for this game as an overlapping fullback. Nevertheless, that's the option to make, I feel. So Ricardo Calafiori overlapping. And there will be times where Eze's going to create the space and come wide, but we've got to work out quite quickly, and they've got to get the rapport between each other, an understanding of when Eze's receiving in that half space and when Calafiori is stepping into that half space. But I think for this game, get Calafiori wide. Nwaneri, the catalyst. Now, while Lewis Skelly is an option to solidify against the counter-attack, even Nwaneri, the other Hale-End lad, brings technical quality and a carrying ability that Arsenal desperately need to break the attack. Now, in terms of an urgency and transition, Nwaneri possesses a change of pace that helps him carry the ball out of tight areas, and he passes defenders so quickly, easing attack and pressure. And that's something that we often lack when opponents basically press really high. He's a genuine ball carrier and not just a passer, which helps Arsenal in the counter-attack. And if anyone watched the Bayern Munich game, I mean, they were fantastic. Like Gnabry was picking up these, like he was almost like a free player. They had runners from midfield, and it was amazing to watch how they build up from that right-hand side. I think if we can get Nwaneri on that pitch early, he can cause huge problems. We've tried to go man-to-man, physical against them a lot in the midfield, and I think the one time that we've really, really shown that we can beat Newcastle and did beat Newcastle was where we had more technical players on the ball and we had Jorginho in that. I think Ethan Nwaneri could be that player. Okay? He's also a player, if we can get him into the zone 14s, if we can get him in rotation with Saka, like he's a player that can go outside, he's a player that can come inside, and both of them are fantastic from that zone just outside the box. And I think Eze and Nwaneri, if we can get them in those areas, they could cause some damage with some shots outside the box. Finally, be brave. Like Arteta has been lambasted, I'll put it that way. He's been criticised for being far too cautious, especially in transition. Well, we shouldn't play gung-ho. We've got to transition from a possession-heavy and pretty unthrilling style to one defined by aggression, directness, and precision in those key areas. The opportunity to kick off a sensational run is right here. It's time we seize it. And it's time that we act like we are the favourites for this Premier League title and stop acting like we're the underdogs. It's time we go to St James's Park and we take them apart. So, what's your starting 11 for this massive game? Do you agree that we need to play Eze and Saka inverted? Do you think Eze needs to be in the 10? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.